focusing on the impact of infant voice in families, research and services. My name's Laura Cassidy, I'm the Network Delivery Manager, and I'll be introducing this session. And my main role is focusing on the Healthier Together website and mobile app around our integration programme. While you're waiting, just as we start, if you would like to please follow and share us on our social media pages, as you can see there. Also visit our website link, and if you're not a member of the network, please do sign up. I think majority of people probably are, but we're always looking to recruit new members, and you will receive our Child Health Tuesday bulletin, which gives lots of information around things that are happening in our region, but also nationally. So any policies, training, funding opportunities, we do share through that on a regular weekly basis. Next slide. So this event, who is attending today? We've got a breadth of people. What I will ask is from across health, social care, education, if you could please put in the chat your name, organisation and sector you're working in, and that'll give the presenters and also the chair the understanding of who's here today and also the participants. That would be helpful, thank you. So just to give you a welcome and overview of the network, I will go through some slides to give you that understanding, background and context to the Child Health and Wellbeing Network. I think majority of people are aware of the challenges that we have in the North East and North Cumbria, and this very much drives the network's approach and our work stream in really trying to address those child health and wellbeing outcomes, but also those inequalities that children and young people face. And we know that actually we've got the highest rates of poverty in the country in the North East, and we've got lots of health inequalities. And you can see some of the statistics there. You know, we've got the highest rates of childhood obesity, highest rates of A&E attendances of children aged 0 to 4 in the country. So we've got some really challenging health outcomes that we need to address as a region. And you can see in the bottom of the slide there's some of the work that we do as a network around overcoming those challenges, and it's very much about those collaborative approaches. Next slide. So just a bit of background to the network and how it evolved. So it very much started in 2018, and it was very much driven by professionals who had that passion and ambition to make a difference in the region and wanted to bring together the wider system to do that. So as it evolved, you can see there we started to kind of get a bit of a funding stream from NHS England, and that was very much around driving the Children and Young People's Transformation Programme, which leads on some key long-term conditions including asthma and epilepsy and diabetes. And as part of that work, it's very much evolved into wider funding work that we've done through the NHS Charities Together, very much focused on those wider determinants of health, and the NANC Children and Young People's Core 20+5, which was part of a national piece of work to bring that for children. And actually we created a tool to support that wider focus at looking at those wider determinants and having a lens for the North East. As we've evolved, we've now moved into the North East North Cumbria ICB, and that will give a little bit of context around the youth board and the manifesto that our children and young people have developed as part of our Know Your Impact group. Next slide, please. So as a network, as part of that initial startup and engagement with wider system and professionals, we also worked with children and young people and their families to really understand what they wanted from the Child Health and Wellbeing Network and its function. And you can see there our shared vision is very much about giving young people that opportunity to flourish and reach their potential and be advantaged by us working together as organisations. On the right, you can see our priority wheel, and we have a number of priorities which I think people will be very familiar with, but integral to that in the centre you can see children, young people and family voice is really what drives us forward, and listening to those in action and the voice of our children and young people, hence why this session today is very important to ensure that we have that across the life course. Very much what the ask from the system was to share good practice, drive work forward and connect expert groups, and our huddles are part of that driving and sharing that innovative practice. Next slide. These are just some of the key statistics, which I guess is a replication of some of the first slide. And I think, you know, it gives that kind of reality of some of the challenges we have as a network and as a region that we're trying to address. Next slide, please, Amelia. I think we've, you know, as a network as well, we've got a huge challenge in our population of the area and footprint that we need to cover. So it is very much essential that we work with partners and ensure the collaborative approach to our work to address these challenges. Next slide. This is just showing you our Facts of Life report, which is available on the website, and it just brings together that data and helps if you were looking at reports and trying to do funding streams as well of work or bids. It might help with some of that data and need and understanding to support that work. Next slide. And this just to give you obviously a flavour of the network's delivery and reach and our communications. So it's very much we deliver on the NHS transformation programme. We do a lot of things around partnership bids to access new funding and network advisors. So we have a lot of clinicians, system leaders helping us drive this work forward, who advise us and give their professional input to the work we're doing. We now have over 2,000 members in our network, which gives us that breadth and input and reach across the system. And obviously you can see there we've got our youth board and network groups to promote youth voice and do a lot of work around sharing good practice and produce that weekly newsletter and bulletins that you can access. Next slide. And I think most importantly, what we want to share today is that youth board manifesto that our children and young people of part of our Know Our Impact group, who have developed this really around what their ask of us is and professionals and organisations across the system. So it's very much the young advisors always being involved in decisions affecting young people from the very beginning, and so they can shape policies and practice. They want opportunities to reach and visit different young people to ensure we've got the wider voice of children and young people from across our region, and also to have that ensure we've got that voice of all children and young people. They want more meetings with the adult board and getting to know each other and be able to have that mutual respect and communication. And also it's about the use of language and making sure that we don't use jargon and medical terminology, so that they have that understanding and things are explained in advance. You can follow the link there and look at the video that the young people have created. It is really quite inspiring, the work they've done, and actually the way that, you know, they bring the voice of how we should work with our children and young people to drive work forward. Next slide. And finally, it's just a quote from Sir Alan Ainsley Green about that, you know, actually children matter, celebrate them and their contributions to society. Where there is injustice, shout from the rooftops to expose them, and where there is poor practice, kick the doors down to get change. Stand up together and be counted. Be effective advocates for their best interests. And Sir Alan Ainsley Green was part of the founder and supporting the establishment of the network. And I think that question at the end, if you don't do it, who will? So actually it's about us as professionals ensuring that we put children and young people's voice at the forefront of the work that we do. Thank you. Next slide. So I'm going to stop there, but I'm going to introduce you to Professor Judith Rankin, who is the chair for today. Judith is a professor of maternal and child health with the Newcastle University Population Health Sciences Institute. She leads the NIHR Applied Research Collaboration for the North East and North Cumbria, supporting children and families theme, and is a member of the NIHR National Maternity and Child Health Priority Programme Management. She leads maternal and child health public health research focused on developing better and integrated maternity and child health and social care to improve outcomes and reduce inequalities. And there's lots of other work and inspiring information in the agenda to find out more about what Judith does. So I'll hand over to Judith to lead the event.
Thank you very much, Laura, and good morning, everyone, from a very cold and frosty Newcastle. I hope you've all managed to get to where you wanted to be safely. So thank you all very much for joining our North East and North Cumbria Child Health and Wellbeing Network Huddle. which very much is focusing today on the impact of the infant voice during Baby Week. So I thought I would just say a few words about what Baby Week aims to do. So it aims to increase awareness of and access to supportive services, raise awareness and engagement with relevant local strategies and interventions, improve outcomes during pregnancy and in the first 5 years of life, and celebrate success and good practice. And today we very much are celebrating that success and good practice with what I know will be 2 excellent presentations. So we will hear from Beth Munby, founder of Close Knit Families and a proud Middlesbrough mum, who will be talking about the rollout of the Close Knit Families Baby Connections video and animation and resources. But first, we'll be hearing about a collaborative project between Theatre Hullabaloo and Newcastle University using creative arts to support babies' rights to express their views. And our speakers for the first presentation will be Dr Bronia Arnott, Knowledge Exchange Broker, and Laura Turner, who's the Programme Officer at Theatre Hullabaloo. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Bronia. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Judith. And Laura and I are going to be doing a double act. So I will be going first and then hand over to Laura, and then she'll hand back to me. So next slide, please. So every day, decisions are made that impact the lives of babies by politicians, practitioners and researchers, all things that make sense from their perspective. But how often do we ask about what things look like from a baby's perspective? Next slide, please. It's a human right that's set out in the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child that children of all ages should be able to express their views on matters that affect them, and that we have a duty to ensure that their views are acted upon. Yet many children are seldom heard in research, practice and society, and this is particularly true for our very youngest citizens from birth to age 2. We believe that babies are seldom heard because they don't speak our language. They don't communicate in adult ways. They're pre-verbal, non-speaking, still developing their language capabilities. However, they do communicate from birth. They use vocalizations, cries, non-verbal cues, such as gaze, facial expressions, and bodily movements. And so much of what you will hear about today will be those wider aspects of communication. Next slide, please. The rights of babies and their early communication abilities have been recognised by the Scottish Government in their best practice guidelines on infant voice. And this is a quote taken from their infant pledge. It says, "To give me the best start so that I can thrive throughout my life, I need to be seen as a person with my own feelings and rights. And I depend on adults to interpret my cues and communications so that my rights are upheld and my voice is heard." And this guidance sets out how to take account of the rights and views of babies and our very youngest children within statutory services, third sector organisations and public spaces in Scotland. However, the voices of infants tend to be underrepresented still in England, particularly in research. Next slide, please. So in an attempt to address this, we use the Lundy model of children's participation to inform our work. This has 4 elements that you can see here. These are space, voice, audience, and influence. The first 2 elements, space and voice, cover a baby's right to express their views. And the second 2 elements, audience and influence, cover a baby's rights to have their views given due weight by those who make decisions about their lives. So we feel that babies are underserved because they don't speak our language, but it's that we don't have the methods to support them to express their views and to understand how to give those views due weight. So this project sought to improve these methods. Next slide, please. We developed a cross-sector collaboration across 2 of the North East universities, Newcastle and Northumbria, and a community arts organisation, Theatre Hullabaloo, to explore these questions through a series of creative play sessions for infants and their caregivers. And so I'm now going to hand over to Laura from the Theatre Hullabaloo to tell you about the theatre and about the sessions. Laura, over to you.
Thank you, Bronia. So Theatre Hullabaloo is a charitable organisation that makes tours and promotes theatre for young audiences. We strongly believe arts and creativity should be in every child's life, and the value it can bring can be phenomenal. Here at the venue, we provide a creative play space with installations designed by artists and those working directly with children that can be accessed year-round for free by all. This allows all families to enjoy a space designed with them in mind, with magic and wonder at every turn. We follow the motto, something to see, something to make, and something to do. Alongside this, we have a full calendar of shows and participatory events throughout the year. We pride ourselves on being a high quality theatre and bringing in artists and theatre companies from all over. This year, we've had a company as local as from our hometown of Darlington to an international company from Germany. We believe that children should be at the heart of what we do, so even down to the design of the building, we collaborate with children to create the Hullabaloo. We work with researchers to enhance our understanding of how children see the world and what they need in their environment. Through this collaboration, we continuously build on and improve the opportunities we provide, but also join with others to help influence wider decisions. So working with Bronia, we carried out play sessions mimicking a similar idea we've used at the Hullabaloo previously that focuses on ensuring the parent or caregiver and the child are welcomed into an environment that puts them at ease and allows them all to get the full benefits. The process starts way before they join us in the room with conversations beforehand to explain what they're joining us for and what to expect on the day. There's a large focus on providing a relaxed environment. Our artist Emma works to create a session including music, fabric and texture exploration, instruments and everyday items such as wooden spoons and plastic bowls. The structure of the sessions are very light touch, with the children able to influence the way the sessions run. Emma is there as an early years art practitioner, guiding the session and interacting directly with the babies at their level. Each session is also supported by a host. This was my role within the focus of being able to support both the adult and the child in whichever need presents in that moment. Having an additional adult in the space with the knowledge around child development, early language prompts, and early interactions helped to focus the dialogue with the babies to ensure their voices were getting heard, and also to help support the adults to understand how to listen to their babies and recognise those nonverbal cues. Each session allowed for some reflection time and free play, where we found so many conversations occur and both babies and adults are able to explore further into whichever area interested them the most. The session always ends with a final soft song or lullaby to clearly kind of show the session had drawn to a close. Next slide, please. So this is our lovely Emma. Emma Bensley is a highly experienced early years music practitioner, qualified primary school teacher and a community musician. With a diverse background in both educational and community settings, Emma has honed her expertise in developing and delivering creative projects for children and adults alike. In addition to her freelance work, Emma is the founder of Mix It Up, a music and movement initiative dedicated to providing uplifting, inclusive and collaborative live music and movement experiences for families with young children in the Teesside area. Emma's practice is driven by a passion for fostering creativity, connection and community. Next slide, please. So as a follow-up from the project, we created some short videos to enhance the learning from within the sessions. These videos we hope can be the beginnings of being able to create a new way of engaging more individuals with supporting children and allowing more of those babies' voices to be heard. If we can play the video now, please.
Hello, I'm Emma. Are you looking for new ways to tune into your baby to discover more about their unique personality, including what they like and dislike, and including their opinions on things? Now, I'm sure your baby has cried from time to time to tell you that they are feeling quite unhappy, but babies can communicate so much more than that in so many different ways from the moment that they're born. In this series of 3 short videos, I'm going to share with you some simple and playful things that you can try with your baby at home to find out a little bit more about them and perhaps what they're trying to say to you. As the parent or carer, you will already know that your baby behaves differently throughout the day. Maybe they're calm and looking around the room or at you. Maybe they're really crying, or maybe they're just a little bit fussy. Perhaps they're arching their back. Well, at these different times of day, you can try different kinds of playful activities to discover what it is that your baby might be trying to communicate with you through these behaviours. So, what if your baby appears to be quite content? Perhaps they're lying on their changing mat, looking around. Perhaps they're sitting, smiling, laughing, giggling. Perhaps they're exploring the room around them. We might describe this baby as being in the green zone, where they are happy, engaged, and ready to play. So, what could we play? You might like to try a game of peekaboo, and this can be played in lots of different simple and more elaborate ways. But the basic premise of peekaboo is hiding and popping out. So if your baby's in front of you, you could try and meet their gaze perhaps, and then slowly hide and peekaboo. Hello. Hi. You could use different types of voices and see what you think they respond to. Perhaps if their eyes move towards the sound or your face, or perhaps if they give you some eye contact, do it again. Peeka, peeka, boo! Experiment with that kind of play and see what kind of response you get. Perhaps if your baby's a little bit bigger, you could use a dancing scarf or a towel or a piece of material. You could use that over heads to play peekaboo, and your little baby might want to put it over their head too and explore popping out. It can be really exciting, and again, you can engage, you can assess how your little one is responding. Eye movements, perhaps they're going to make some sounds, and it might tell you whether or not they're enjoying it. But of course, experiment with lots of different types of this style of play, and see what you feel like your baby is responding to best. But we all know that babies are definitely not in that green zone all the time. So if you'd like to find out a little bit more about how you can tune into your baby when they are communicating different things to you, watch the next video.
So hopefully that gave you a flavour
Hello,
of, oh, can we move on to the next slide? Thanks.
Hello, I'm Emma. Are you
Hopefully that gave you, I'm hoping the video doesn't stop playing again. Hopefully that gave you a flavour of what the sessions might have been like with Emma. She's really brilliant and engaging. I'm sorry that we couldn't have her in the room this morning, but she's busy entertaining babies. So are we able to move on? Are the slides stuck? Oh, there we go. Brilliant. So I'm going to tell you a bit more about the sessions. I want to talk a bit about the babies who came and took part. So we had 6 infants involved in the sessions who were aged 3 to 12 months. And they brought their caregivers along that consisted of 3 mums, 2 dads and 1 grandma. And the sessions were held in one of the most deprived wards in the northeast of England. And we know that the region has very high levels of poverty anyway. And some of the families had also been involved in a socially prescribed play programme, which is offered by the Theatre Hullabaloo. And this programme is particularly targeted at disadvantaged families or families experiencing multiple issues. So we had quite diverse representation, and families were reimbursed for their time. The parents received vouchers and travel subsidies, and babies got a baby play pack. You can see the front cover of this baby play pack here. So moving on to the next slide, you can see here the key principles that came out of this work. And in terms of facilitating infant voice, we found that we were able to identify elements that created safe, inclusive and enabling spaces so that all babies could be heard. And these were elements which we believe could be quite easily replicated in other settings. We also believe that we were able to identify some voice facilitating practices which supported babies' early communications. And we believe that these practices can be learned by those who interact with babies. We also believe that in terms of giving babies' views their due weight, we found some key audience skills and attitudes that are important to co-creating meaning with babies, and that these skills and attitudes are things that could be developed. Finally, we found that in terms of giving babies influence in terms of things that matter to them across policy, practice and research, decision makers need to be skilled in including infant voice. And sometimes I think it can be hard for people to imagine what we've learned from babies in this project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share some of our learnings, and I'm going to illustrate them with stories from the babies themselves in the session. Because as part of the project, we didn't want to take photos of the babies or use videos, because we were still developing a relationship with them and their families. And we also thought it might impact the communications from the babies themselves. So we just developed little narratives around what was going on. So on the next slide, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about some of the things that we found. In terms of relation to spaces, we heard from babies that they need to feel safe, inclusive, and enabled. Spaces need to be safe, and babies need to feel safe and well regulated. They need to feel welcome and included, and they need to be able to express themselves and be able to be understood. In terms of creating spaces for babies, we heard from one of our babies, who I'm going to call Baby N. Baby N was one of our younger babies who attended the sessions. He attended session 1 with his mum, and Emma was encouraging the babies and the parents to engage in face-to-face interactions. And mum placed Baby N down on the green mats that you can see here in the centre. Baby N expressed that he did not like this, and his opinion interrupted the interaction with mum. So Laura noticed this and actually offered one of the brightly coloured beanbags that you can see here to mum as an alternative place to lay Baby N down. This was much more acceptable to Baby N and allowed mum and baby to have a face-to-face interaction, and for us to find out more from Baby N about his views on different things other than some green carpet tiles, which he didn't like. So I think one of the key things is that there are ways that we can organise the environment based on what babies like and dislike, and by changing the environment and the space, that babies are more able to express their views on other things. In the next slide, we focus on elements that were important to babies expressing their views in terms of their voice. So we found that communicative context was important. The conversational partners were important, both the baby and the adult who they were interacting with, or other babies, because sometimes the babies interacted with one another, and also the relational practices that adults can put into place. Here again, we heard from Baby N about this, about the importance of conversational partners being what we call ready to relate. We found obviously sometimes babies are tired or hungry, and that's all that they are able to express as part of the conversation until somebody addresses their needs. But in the first session, Baby N had been a bit unsettled. He'd signaled that he was hungry, but he was actually a bit too distracted to feed. And so ahead of session 2, mum made sure that Baby N had a full tummy. And so in that session, we were much more able to learn about his views than in session 1, because he wasn't distracted by his hunger. So I think the key thing is about making sure that babies are ready to express their views. They're not too tired, they're not too hungry, they're not bothered by anything else. Because while their hunger, tiredness, and other physical cues are important for them to express, it's important that we learn about their views in terms of other things as well. On the next slide, we talk about the communicative context and how there is power in the pause, we found. So often we need to slow down and pause to give babies the opportunity to express their views. We found this through Baby R. Emma would sometimes be singing songs in the sessions, and she started to leave a pause, and Baby R started filling those pauses with her own songs. She would take turns singing with Emma, but if Emma didn't leave the pauses, then Baby R didn't sing along. So this suggested that we need to slow down and pause to give infants the opportunity to express their views. On the next slide, we talk about audience to give babies their due weight. We identified that audiences need to be able to be ready to translate what babies have told them, to be able to co-create meaning with babies, and to be an advocate for babies' views. We learned a lot about this from Baby A. Baby A told us the importance of co-creating meaning. During the session, Emma was facilitating a session with musical instruments that you can see here, and each baby had their own tub. Baby A decided to turn out all of the instruments from the tub turned the tub upside down and took the wooden spatula and started hitting the tub with it. And Emma co-created the meaning that baby A was drumming. And so Emma set up an interaction with baby A where they would play some music together. And Emma also outlined to baby A's caregiver that they could provide this opportunity at home with things that they might already have in the house, such as pots, pans, and wooden spoons. Moving on to the next slide, we also learned a lot from baby A about advocacy. At the end of session 2, Emma was playing her ukulele, which you can see here, and baby A was very interested in this. He moved towards Emma to find out more, but baby A's caregiver was a bit concerned about this. Would baby A damage the ukulele, for example? Emma wanted to advocate for baby A, so said it was okay for him to explore. And she lowered the instrument down even further so that it was easy for him to reach. And she continued to sing along while baby A actually played a few notes for us on the ukulele. And baby A was so captivated by this that when Emma finished the song, she handed the ukulele over to Laura so that baby A could continue to explore it. And I think the key thing here was that Emma signaled to the caregiver that it was okay for baby A to explore this way and to express his opinions, and facilitated them. And if we move on to the next slide, in terms of influence, we found that what's important is babies having ways of influencing decision making. And we highlighted that reflective decision making is important, circle of influence, and also mental representation. And if we move on to the next slide, you'll be able to see what I mean about mentally representing babies. This is a group of professionals sat in a creative play installation that the Hullabaloo have set up in a family hub in Middlesbrough. And the professionals are grounding themselves in the reality of babies by sitting in the installation on the floor to trying to make babies' lives more familiar to them in their decision making. So moving on to the next slide, you might say, well, this is all very nice, but so what? We've learned a lot about babies' rights to express their views and to have their views given due weight, and that creative play sessions might hold a promise of understanding the views of babies. And this could have potential for impact in research, policy, and practice in society. But how? On the next slide, you can see this is the recently launched Newcastle Infant Mental Health Strategy, and aptly it's called Listening to Our Babies. Because if we want services and policies to meet the needs of babies, what we need to do is listen to what they are telling us. How do babies experience your service? What do babies think about closing libraries? Or how do they experience our parks in the city? And if we move on to the next slide, you may have heard the saying that it takes a village to raise a child. Well, we think that it takes a system to listen to babies. This is an image from some work I did with the Parent Infant Foundation, and it shows the types of services that could benefit from thinking more about babies, not just health visitors and midwives, but domestic abuse services, probation services, family courts, public health teams, adult mental health services, and more. On the next slide, we have learned from this work that there are key skill sets, mindsets, and toolkits that could help practitioners and professionals to listen to babies and to make sure that their rights are upheld. And that's the next thing that we would like to do, to develop these things to help practitioners to listen to babies. And on the next slide, you'll see the feature that I look forward to, which is seeing a society in which infant voice is not just heard, but valued, where decision makers include the voice of baby in decisions that affect them, in which practitioners, professionals, and researchers co-create meaning with babies, and where parents are supported to understand their baby, and babies experience their views of being heard, given due weight, and their rights upheld. And finally, on the last slide, I'd just like to express our thanks to our funders, to all of the parents who came to the sessions, but mostly to the babies who we learned a lot from. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bronia and Laura. That was an absolutely fascinating presentation. I'm sure you've all got questions, but I'm going to ask you to hold them for now, please. We do have a session after our short break at 11, and then we will come back and have questions. But in the meantime, if you want to capture your question, please feel free to use the chat. But I'm reassuring you will have time for questions. So thank you again, and now we'll move on to our second presentation for the morning, Beth Munby, who will be talking to us about the close-knit families, helping others to think baby. Thank you very much, Beth.
Hi everyone, can I get a thumbs up if you can hear me, because I've had some technical difficulties this morning. Great. That was a fantastic presentation. Thank you so much, Bronia. I was like making notes like, oh, that's a great idea. I could try this, I could try that, and what we're doing. So I'm Beth Munby, I'm from Close Knit Families, and we have just become a charity from being a social enterprise. We're based in Middlesbrough, but we do work in Teesside and beyond. And we're all about giving the babies the best start in life, helping people through our resources and training. And we do that by promoting the importance of early relationships, experiences, and relationships for babies. We work with parents and carers, practitioners, and everyone in between. And today I'm going to be sharing about how the infant voice has shaped our work, how it comes across in what we do. And I'm also going to be sharing with you 2 of our co-produced video resources that we have made to raise awareness of parents and families in the first 1001 days. Can you put the next slide on, please? But first of all, I did just want to share a bit about who I am, who Close Knit are, and kind of why I started it. So I worked with families in the early help and the voluntary community sector for over 14 years now. In my old role in early help, I just found like it was just too late by the time I was speaking to families. It didn't feel early enough. And that's when I started to become passionate about prevention and early intervention. And I started to have some ideas about ways that we could share things with parents in a way that made sense to them, because I felt like as a practitioner, I often didn't have the tools and resources to do this. And what I did have, I would be adapting to put it into language that parents can understand. From a personal perspective, I had my own children, and my second child was really hard to soothe as a baby. I found I was putting in a lot of what I knew into practice, but I thought, actually, what would I know about this if I didn't have the training that I had? And it just started to get me to feel a bit passionate about sharing things as early as possible in a way that made sense to parents from the start, really. And I think, you know, whether you have challenges around your baby being hard to soothe or not, parenting is difficult, you know. It's hard, especially in those first years when there's maybe lack of sleep and other things. And especially in this area where we know there's high levels of deprivation, there's more additional challenges, potentially such as mental health problems, parents having their own adverse childhood experiences. And parents don't always know how to give babies the best start or why it's important, but they actually might want to. You know, some parents might have had a difficult experience growing up themselves. They want to do things differently with their baby, but they don't really have that kind of understanding of what or how they can do things differently. And just helping people understand, you know, how important their relationship is with their baby, how important those early experiences are for babies, about how babies are always communicating with us, just like we heard on that last session. So I had an idea, why don't we create a video animation to show parents to be and parents of babies about how their relationship and their interactions with babies helps their baby's development and well-being, you know, showing how care and responding to your baby really helps your baby's brain develop. And I thought, you know, not only would it help parents, but it would also help practitioners as well to have that easy to share resource, because I know practitioners do always want to share this information, but potentially with all the other things they have to do in the job, it might come a bit lower down the list, and they maybe need some kind of easier tools and ways to share it. Also, I think video animation is great for especially families who have maybe low literacy levels, because it explains things in a way that might be easier for them to engage with rather than having to read information. And I do think sometimes sharing things through video can feel a bit less patronising. It can reduce some of that barrier potentially, but then can be a bit of a gateway to building on conversation with families afterwards. So yes, it wasn't very simple. I make it sound simple, but yeah, we did create close-knit families as a result of this, and we co-produced our video with parents and carers, and we've developed other materials and sessions which are all about supporting babies, and I'll go into more detail about these. So next slide, please. So, I mean, I'm not going to go into detail about all the reasons why we do what we do, because I'm pretty sure everyone on this call has a real understanding of why the early years are so important for babies right now and for their future. All about how the quality of early experiences and early relationships really have an impact on that lifelong development and outcomes in the future. And we're really passionate about supporting parents early on. We're really passionate about prevention, and we're just trying to think of as many ways as possible as we can support this, because we want to see a generational change in this area. And I'm sure lots of people on the call are really interested in that, and kind of disrupting some of those difficult patterns which we see passed down within families, and really helping people to understand the importance of relationships and to support them to be able to build that with their children. Next slide, please. So yeah, so we did start Close-Knit Families in 2021. And then we eventually got funding a year later to create our Baby Connections video, which is the video animation I was describing to you, with parents and practitioners. And we co-produced the video with over 200 parents and almost 50 practitioners. We did that in Teesside. We did it through surveys, focus groups. Some of you on the call may have been involved in that. And if you were, thank you very much. Really appreciate all the time and support we got when we were making the video. And it was great because there's an element or part of the video which you'll see, which is voiced by the voice of the child, the voice of the baby. And that was a really key part. And when we were in the focus groups looking at the script for that section, it was a really impactful time, and the parents were commenting on, oh, this is really, emotive, and this is really helping me connect and understand. So it was great that even through the actual producing of the video, it was helping us in our aims of supporting parents with their relationship with their babies and their understanding of what might be going on for their baby. Next slide, please. So we've co-produced 2 video resources, and we do have fully funded resources online as well, which would be great if you could be sharing with your families that you're supporting and within your organisations. In everything we do, we want to support as many people as possible to think baby and to listen to babies' voices. In June, we kind of linked in online with the Infant Mental Health Awareness Week, and we hosted our own Baby Aware Month. And we did that through our socials and our blog. It's a bit of an example of the blog on there. And we champion the voices of babies and all the local networks that we're part of, particularly in relation to children and young people, as often babies are missing in representation in that as well. Our work is very father inclusive. We do involve dads within our video resources as well, and different family makeups throughout our videos. And we license our Baby Connections video to organisations who work with families in the first 1,001 days. You put the next slide on, please. So we deliver sessions to parents and practitioners, to foster carers and kinship carers. The way it works for us is that our sessions for parents and carers are funded through grant funding. So organisations, so we can either be do it as part of a project work that we've been funded for, or organisations can get us to deliver on their behalf to groups that they're working with. We also have been doing some personal, social health and education sessions. I always get that the wrong way around. In some pupil referral units in South Tees, so in Middlesbrough and Redcar and Cleveland. This has been a challenge, like to just get the content right, for the kids to relate to, especially for some of these young people, they're going to be coming from their own difficult experiences with them being in pupil referral units. But it's been such a big passion of mine, and just seeing some light bulb moments and hearing what young people have got to say, I do really think, you know, if we are going to change things for babies, if we are going to help increase babies' chances of having a much better quality of life with their caregivers, we need to be starting some of these messages pre-conception, and we need to be helping people to think baby and listen to babies way before they're even at the point of being parents themselves. So our sessions cover subjects, we call it the baby connections, but it's like parent and baby relationship, baby brain development. We also do around bonding before birth and baby and parent wellbeing. So please get in touch if you're interested in finding out more about our training sessions as well. My email is going to be on the end of this. But we also share our resources in different ways through partnerships. Home Stats on the call, Teesside, saw you, Michelle. So they've been sharing some of our parent packs with parents. We also have a link with the baby boxes, which a lot of you will know about through the Children's Foundation. And our poem resource is shared through them, which again is about the voice of the baby. And we also link in with Baby Banks and Teesside to share some of our resources that way too, having like QR codes on some of the literature so parents can watch the videos that way. And since we started in 2021, I've worked really hard to build up a partnership across voluntary and community sector and the public sector, because I really believe, and that's why I was really interested and pleased with what you wrote, Bronia, about that cross-sector working. It's going to be really essential for supporting babies to have the best start. And our resources are being shared by at least 35 organisations. I think it's probably more, including the Healthier Together app as well. We do have plans to like build on what we can do. I mean, I've always got ideas because I've got ADHD, like I literally do. So it's part of the strength of my condition. But we are always thinking about ways that we can kind of raise the voice of babies, and I'm really interested in developing some stuff around with corporates, obviously from a funding perspective, but also in terms of, I think something that we miss when we think about the system is actually linking into the power of corporates and the influence of corporates, and how through their staff relations and all that sort of thing, we can really make a change and start to change some, like have a common understanding and a common mindset around the importance of the first of 1,001 days. But yes, we've got other ideas of things that we'd like to do in the community too. Next slide, please. This is just an example of some of the regional and national plans that our work aligns with, and from an equity and equality point of view, in our core production, you know, we worked with people from different demographics, and our video resources also include people from different ethnicities. And we've also thought about what we include in the background, you know, like not too many sessions, and all of our suggestions that we share with parents are like either zero or low cost as well. Next slide, please. So without further ado, I'll actually share with you the video. So this is our Baby Connections video. Hopefully you can hear. Please put something in the chat if you can't.
Did you know that when you smile at a baby, you help their brain to grow?
This video is about baby brain development and how you can support babies with this. Babies need their parents
and all those who care for them to help build their brains from the start, even in the womb. The first 2 years of a baby's life are the fastest time of brain building. Their brain grows through their relationship with you. Every smile,
every I love you,
every cuddle helps build their brain.
The more we do this, the stronger the brain connections become.
Think of brains being built like a house.
Responding to your baby and showing them care builds a strong foundation in the brain.
The structure gets stronger every time you connect with your baby.
When babies experience unconditional love and care repeated over time, they learn to trust, building strong brain connections.
This will help them in the future with their relationships and emotions.
We won't be perfect parents.
It is normal to make mistakes.
The important thing is that we do the best we can. And when we make mistakes,
Which we will, we take the time to reconnect with our babies.
the secret to building your baby's brain lies in all the little things.
Repeated over time, again and again.
How can you help me build my brain today? How can you help it grow? I need your loving attention, cuddles and kisses. Talk to me in every language you know. Sing in or out of tune to me and tell me about the world around. Give me loving looks, read me simple books. My brain will love the sound. When you are calm, I'm calm. When you take care of yourself, you take care of me. Ask for help when you need it, 'cause if you're stressed, I'll feel it. Speak about me and to me kindly. I try to tell you how I feel with my face, cries and coos. When you respond to my needs, whether a cuddle or a feed, I know I'm safe with you. Hold me gently in quiet times. Laugh together in fun times too. All these things help in building my brain and my bond with you.
Babies' brains are also developing in the womb. In pregnancy, babies experience whatever the mother experiences, and this can have an impact on their brain as it develops.
It is important to get support if you are struggling with anything in pregnancy. And after the baby is born, as babies are still aware of what is going on around them.
We know that being a parent can be hard at times. Sometimes it can bring up difficult memories from our childhoods.
It helps if we do things regularly that help to keep us calm and make us smile.
Sometimes parents and their babies can be in difficult circumstances that are outside of their control.
The amazing thing about the brain is that it is never too late to create new connections and repair when things go wrong.
Babies develop at different rates. Always seek support if you are worried about your baby's development.
Remember, it is all the little things you can do that can make a big difference.
You are the most important person to help build your baby's brain.
How will you help your baby's brain to grow today?
And every day.
Thank you. Can you put it on the next slide just so it doesn't start again? Now, for me, it was a little bit shaky that. I don't know about anybody else, but it's not normally like that at all. The sound is very clear usually. So just to say, yeah, we license our Baby Connections video resource to organisations who work with families, and we've done that in a partnership with South Tyneside, so their family hubs are sharing that also with the South Tees Best Start partnership, so that's being shared through health visiting, maternity and family hubs in Middlesbrough and Redcar. And we hope to license it to more organisations. So if you're interested, it would be great to speak to you. Like I said, my details are going to be at the end of this slide. What I will say is the poem section where you're hearing the voice of the baby, that is fully funded and is available on our website for you to access and share with families. And because of our partnership with the South Tees Best Start, they funded us to have it translated into Arabic, Czech and Romanian. So this video is also available in those languages too. But that section is also available in those languages on our website. We actually partnered with the primary school in Middlesbrough to translate the video. And that was actually like a lovely experience as well. Those kids were buzzing when they were doing the voiceovers for that. So next slide, please. Just to share a little bit of feedback, and I'm going to try and whiz through this because I do have our other parent wellbeing video to show you. South Tyneside Family Hubs are using the video to complement the delivery of the Grow Brain parenting programme. They've found that parents and professionals are finding the video really interesting. They like it because it's concise, it's jargon-free, and it's a relatable summary at the end of their 4-week programme, and that it reinforces the importance of the development of the brain in the first 1001 days and of good relationships. And also they've appreciated the use of the dad in the video. Next slide, please. To say that these people were invited to share, but they couldn't come today either. Self-Tease Best Start Partnership said that they used the video and they're really delighted with it. I love that word, delighted, as the content supports a priority around promoting key messages regarding the importance of the early experiences in the first 1001 days. And they use the video on various touch points, including assessments and reviews and community settings. And they like how it shares the information in a really lovely way with plain language, and also having it translated has also been great. And they've used some of the content to develop a training program for wider professionals to skill them up on what matters in the first 1001 days. And they feel like this passion and voice of this key issue is a real plus for us in the North East. Along the bottom there, that's a link to the press release, but I think that'll come out with the emails as well after the presentation. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, great. Got time to show you this video. So I was rushing through. So our parent wellbeing video was co-produced with parents and practitioners in Teesside. This resource is fully funded, and this one is on the Healthier Together app. And I can also send you the file for this if you want to store it on your organisation systems, and it's available on our website and social medias too. Can you put that on, please?
When you imagined me, what did you think life would be like?
Perhaps you pictured having a straightforward pregnancy and birth.
An easygoing baby?
Maybe you imagined the picture-perfect family.
Or that having a baby would be the happiest time of your life.
We know the reality of having a baby can be quite different to that, so it is important to take care of yourself.
There are good times, amazing times in fact, and hard times too. You may find life feels quite different. The sleepless nights,
The poo explosions,
the pain,
the crying,
always being needed, never having time to rest.
wondering if we are doing it right.
Babies don't come with an instruction manual. Everyone is learning on the job. You are not alone.
Take crying for example. Babies cry, and some babies cry more than others.
Sometimes we can panic and think that they don't like us.
This isn't the case.
Babies cry to tell us something.
We might not know what that is, so we can try different things to work out what they need.
You might feel overwhelmed, and that's because it can be overwhelming.
It's okay to take a moment to reset.
You might miss your old life, but that doesn't mean you don't love the life you live in.
You might be finding it hard, and if you are, it's okay to ask for help. There are a few things that can help.
Science tells us that slowing down decreases our stress levels.
Being relaxed and calm is good for your baby's development during and after pregnancy.
Looking after yourself means you are looking after your baby too.
We can do that in simple and small ways by
Keeping up with the basics,
doing something we enjoy,
something for you.
moving our bodies and getting outside,
You don't have to climb up a hill, although you can if you want to.
taking a short walk or stepping out into the garden can make a difference.
Being in the sunlight helps our mood and our sleep quality too.
You might not be getting the sleep you need, so any kind of rest is important.
Slow down. Some things can wait while you rest.
Take time to simply be with your baby.
Look at their features. Notice their eyelashes and the tiny toes.
Spending time like this with your baby releases hormones, which can strengthen your bond and lift your mood.
This is good for you, it's good for the baby, and it's good for your relationship with them too.
Good relationships are important for our well-being. It really helps to keep talking and to share the load.
Whether that is with your partner, friends and family, a midwife or a health visitor.
Speaking to other parents through local playgroups and online can help what it can be like.
Sharing your feelings and struggles can make a difference.
It might help to speak to your GP, who could offer options such as talking therapies, where you can speak to someone trained to work with parents of babies.
These are all ways you can look after yourself.
And remember, when you are looking after yourself, you are looking after your baby too.
What can you do to take care of yourself today?
Thank you. Can you go on to the next slide, please? Again, that was a bit jittery for me, but it might just be my issues that I'm having today, but it's not like that if you have a look at our website. So yeah, just to share that parents talk about how our resources help them to know about the importance of smiling and interacting with a baby, how being close and loving with their baby helps their baby's brain development, helping them to understand about recognising their baby's crying and understanding what they may want. How babies pick up on emotions that parents and carers are feeling, and the importance of simple communication and being calm, and that everything influences baby from pregnancy onwards. So that's all, examples of how we're raising the infant voice and helping parents to understand that. Next slide, please. So I have included our webpage link to where our resources are, but I've realised I should have included the one that says practitioners on it, but I'll send that out when we send out the presentations, and that QR code just leads to our parent wellbeing video that you've just seen. But like I said, I'm happy to send the video files of the fully funded resources so you can share them on your systems. Next slide, please. So just want to finish with a question that I ask at the end of one of our PSHE sessions, which is, babies are always talking to us, are we listening? And that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Beth. An absolutely fabulous presentation. Two very, very excellent presentations this morning. Just to say, there's some really lovely comments in the chat for both yourself and also to Bronia and Laura. So we are going to now go into a comfort break. I'd like to also congratulate you both on your timing, which is absolutely perfect. So we'll have a 5 minutes comfort break now, and maybe that will give you time to look at some of those lovely comments. When we come back, we'll go into our questions session. So see you all at 5 past. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone back, please. Thank you very much. I wonder if we could stop sharing the slides just so we can maybe invite people to come off camera if they're willing to, and start the discussion. So we've heard very much in the presentations about how important it is to include the baby's voice, but not only to include, but to listen to the baby. And I suppose what we would really value from this question and answer session is, how can we get professionals and organisations to think baby? So that's our question back to you. But obviously we're very happy to receive any questions that you might have. I'm sure you want to follow up with both Beth, Bronia and Laura in some of the points that they made during their presentations. So can I invite anyone to start the questions? And if you're happy to, could I invite you also to introduce yourself when you ask a question? So Becky, thank you.
Hi, morning everyone. Becky Booth from Thrive at 5. I'm the Parent and Community Outreach Lead. Thank you both for really, really interesting presentations. Bonnie, I have a question for you about your interesting sort of daisy diagram that I absolutely loved. And I just wondered if you could say a little bit about what the biggest barriers were that you identified in the system when thinking about the system listening to a baby, and how you sort of have managed to overcome some of those.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because that sort of daisy diagram, I like that description of it, because I always struggle. It definitely sort of represents a flower, doesn't it? We came from another bit of work that I did with the Parent Infant Foundation. It's in the sort of commissioning support toolkit, that diagram. Maybe we can link to it when we send out the notes and things. But it is a sort of massive barrier. I think obviously, did you mean sort of the barriers of sort of listening to babies across different parts of the system?
Yeah, I think so. So I think a lot of our work at Thrive at 5 is sort of system focused, really. So I was just interested in, I really liked that thing you said about it takes a system to listen to a baby. So I was just interested in what that means really in terms of this piece of work, and if you could talk a bit about barriers and it within the system, and how you sort of managed to overcome them.
Yeah, so I think this piece of work was starting to explore it. I don't know if we necessarily unearthed all of the barriers or whether we've found the solutions, but I do get the impression that a lot of people think that listening to babies is just about maternity, health visitors, nursery nurses, things like that, and it's not necessarily the system. And I think we've got great opportunities with things like family hubs and other, system changes to actually embed infant voice. But I do think the people who need to, who make the decisions and who, have the opportunity to involve infants and babies in their sort of decision making, need to have the right sort of skills and mindsets, because I think so often we just talk about children and young people, and we don't talk about babies, children and young people, and I think it's seen as sort of almost a bit siloed. And I do think there's challenges across sort of working across the system anyway on all sorts of things that we do for sort of babies, children and young people, but I think there are particular barriers to listening to babies across the system, because people don't necessarily have those sort of skill sets, and babies are seen as not being able to sort of communicate in the way that we might sort of understand. So I think it is an issue, but I'm not saying that we've got all of the answers yet, because I think sort of a lot of more work could still be done on it. But yeah, I do think it is an issue, and I think if we all work together on sort of listening to babies, then everything would be better for them.
It's really helpful, thank you.
Thank you, Becky. I'll just take one that's coming in the chat while people are thinking of their question. So this is from Jude Gordon, who's saying, I wonder if one approach could be to encourage baby champions in different organisations, sectors. This has worked well in the field of supporting parent relationship, but maybe this has already been done. So this is about practitioners who almost act as if they hang on a minute person to remind their colleagues of babies' voices. So I don't know if anybody wants to comment on that suggestion.
I think it's a really good suggestion. I think obviously I was at the Newcastle sort of baby week event last week, and they had dads champions, and, you know, we have champions for things, obviously, as Jude said, for, you know, sort of parent sort of conflict and things like that. And I just think having sort of baby champions, and I think the example of the picture that I showed of sort of practitioners and professionals sitting in like a space that's for babies, you know, in the sort of family hub in Middlesbrough, I think that helps too to overcome some of these barriers. So having sort of champions and having people who make decisions sort of be not necessarily based in sort of baby settings, but actually to spend some time there.
Thank you. Catherine.
Hi, yeah, my name's Catherine. I'm an occupational therapist for the Newcastle upon Tyne Trust. And I'm actually working on a project at the moment with my colleague Rachel McConnell on the Freeman site with the babies, and about that sort of best start in life. And sort of baby communication, and it's very much about sort of us as professionals observing the babies and looking at the cues in order to best respond to the needs. But as we work in a regional service, I just wonder, is there a directory that exists that we could signpost our families to when they are discharged across the whole northeastern Cumbria to the likes of close-knit families? Is there other sort of organisations that are sort of further north to the Scottish borders and further down south?
I think this is very much about how can we signpost, especially your organisation, Beth. Is there a directory that all of these kind of organisations are held within, or it's how do you go about sort of signposting people to your organisation?
I think there's I do feel like there's quite a mismatch of things, and sometimes it's a case of what you know and where you can go to. Now this, Amelia, you need to step in at this point because I can't quite remember the exact name of it, but there's a website that our information's on, which is to do with this network. Amelia, if you're there, can you maybe put it in the chat or speak up? But I mean, I think in different areas, I know there's things called like family information services. I think they have different names in different areas. So there's that, but I do think, yeah, we probably are missing maybe like a really cohesive place that you could refer people to. Maybe potentially the Healthier Together app would come under that as well. But yeah, I think that's what's hard, isn't it? There's probably lots of really good learning out there or different organisations of support, but it just happens to be, if you happen to be on this call today, you'll know about so-and-so. If you happen to be on this mailing list, you'll have found out about this or that place. And yeah, it would be great if we could have maybe some coming together of that. But I do, maybe that's kind of a role within the ICB that, you know, could kind of come into that. I don't know, giving someone work there, but just a suggestion.
Great, thank you, Beth. We've got some more questions coming. I'll go to Rachel next. Sorry, Rachel Collum. There's
Hello.
two Rachels with questions.
Hello, so I am Rachel. I'm a psychology lecturer at Sunderland Uni, and I'm chair of the Northern Neonatal Network Parent Advisory Group, which we really need to shorten. So I've kind of got that hat on. It's less of a question, more of a comment, but when you were talking that last presentation about, like, you know, making sure we listen to what babies are telling us, this is something we're not very good at doing, I think, she says contentiously, on the neonatal unit, where obviously it's really logistically difficult. Like, there's a lot of really painful procedures for babies and a lot of, you know, loads of sensory stimulation that they wouldn't usually be having, especially preterm babies who are meant to be in a dark womb. So, and there is a bit of a drive around family integrated care for parents to read their baby's signals, which is fantastic, and a lot of stuff around neurodevelopment. But I guess it's probably too hard a question, but maybe just thoughts on what can we do to kind of balance the need to listen to what babies are telling us with some of those logistical things that I guess have to take place on the neonatal unit. I just wondered if anyone had any thoughts on that, really.
Can I just respond to that? So I've been on a fantastic course by an organisation called Sensory Beginnings. I don't know if you've come across them, Rachel.
Yeah, I've done one of their courses, yeah.
They are fantastic, and I think they kind of help to support about ways that you can, you know, support a baby, even though they've got lots more challenges in terms of like the physical, you know, and in terms of like the neonatal incubators and all that sort of thing. They really do offer some really good advice around that, and their social media is really helpful. But I think obviously there's always going to be things that babies and families have to go through which are hard, which are out of their control, but it's what is in your control that you can do. So you can dim the lights when you're doing that certain intervention. You can speak gently to the baby, you know, when you're maybe doing an intervention that might be painful to them. And it's about putting in, you know, recognizing where the challenges are, but also, you know, well, where can we kind of counter that? How can we buffer that? What is the protective things we can introduce to make that a bit easier for babies? And I also think like talking things through with babies while you're doing it. Hi baby, I know this might be hard for you, but I'm here and I'm here to help you, and just all of that sort of thing. You know, babies will soak it up and babies will feel more safe when that's happening. And obviously, as much as possible, that the parents and carers can be there when that's hard, offering that really nice containment for the baby. That's so important as well. But I agree, it must be a really difficult area to work in, balancing what you know about like the impact on baby, but with essentially these things need to happen. Like, it's an emergency situation. We have to put babies through this and for their own development.
Thank you, Beth, and thank you for the question, Rachel. And we'll go to the other Rachel Leslie this time.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name's Rachel Leslie. I am the operational lead for our Little Minds in Mind service with Children North East, and it was more of a comment rather than a question. It would be really good, just going back a couple of steps, just to get a directory to be able to say who we can kind of refer to. We work specifically in Newcastle, and it would be great because a lot of our mums are moved to different areas, so it would be absolutely fantastic after this call to have a directory where we could kind of continue that support for some of the mums moving out of the area.
Thank you, Rachel. So just emphasising that point again, and there will have to be questions. We're very happy to receive comments from you about any of the work that's been discussed. Eleanor, I'll move to you next.
Hiya, thank you, and thank you for the brilliant presentations as well. I really enjoyed and learned a lot from them. Just a thought that just came to my head in response to Rachel's question, Rachel number one's question. If the hospital has the play therapists around, I know that they're usually very, very stretched, like everyone in the NHS, but they are, so I'm doing my play therapy qualification at the moment, and they are trained to work at that level as well, and could probably maybe offer training to the nurses or the staff in that sector rather than be there themselves, because again, they're a stretched resource. My question was regarding, and perhaps to yourself, Bronia, or anyone else who knows. So I work for a charity, I manage a charity called Children's Voices in Action. And we work supporting other organisations around the UK and abroad to just prioritise children's voices, particularly in their monitoring and evaluation of what they're doing. We tend to use with very young children a lot of observations. A lot of these have been designed with child psychologists, psychotherapists, the techniques based in play therapy. But I wonder whether, Bronia, you have a preferred, so things like when you're looking at feelings of safety with your slightly older children, school readiness, comfort, do you have like an observational checklist, something quite like a practical resource that you use on those observations of children's behaviour to assess where they're at?
Not personally, but they do exist. And maybe we can sort of send them out with the links as well. And they've been based on the Lundy model, which I showed in the presentation. And this was more about trying to sort of bring it down to the sort of first 1001 days. But yes, you know, they have those sort of checklists based around those sort of 4 things of space, voice, audience, and influence. And you can go through the checklist and just score where you are. So the idea ideally would be to try and have one for babies in the future. Yeah, but hopefully we can send out a link to the ones that exist for older, slightly older children.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Eleanor. And Louise Frost.
Hi, everyone. Just a lot of what Beth was saying totally resonates. I worked in early health for about 15 years. I'm now in with children in a children's rights organisation, and definitely, I put a comment in the chat, babies are not represented. And I was taking lots of notes there, and literally I've texted my director to say I think there's a piece of work we could potentially be looking at. So I think it would be great to maybe link up with Beth and maybe move forward about how we can get that work out and about more. But yeah, all the work that you are doing sounds great and really close to my heart. So well done.
That's excellent. And if this Huddle helps to make people to make connections, then that's a really great outcome of today. So I'm just going to maybe take a few questions just that I was thinking about. I know you've already described some of the outputs, and this is to both presentations, but have you got other outputs that you're preparing from these projects?
Do you want me to go?
Yeah. Yep, you jump in.
So obviously we showed one of the videos of Emma, which we've developed from the project, and that's a resource that is parent facing. So we developed 3 very short videos because we wanted it to be something that parents could just watch, you know, when they had sort of 3 minute or so, if you ever get a 3 minute as a parent. And that could be on sort of social media and things like that. So the idea is that we could share those for parents to see sort of more about listening to infants. And we would share those, for example, maybe on the Hullabaloo website and other sort of social media platforms. But the idea ultimately would be to develop more resources for professionals. So to help them to prioritise listening to babies' views and then sort of acting on babies' views as part of their sort of decision making across the system. So unfortunately, you know, this was a really sort of tiny project and we didn't have sort of a very big budget, but we have those sort of parent facing resources. There's a sort of set of 3 videos and hopefully they'll be available to parents soon, but we'd be looking to do some more work to develop sort of practitioner and professional resources.
Thanks, Bronia and Beth.
Laura also would like to give you an opportunity to share about Theatre Hullabaloo as well after I've spoke. I'm just aware that you maybe haven't had a chance to say anything extra. Yeah, I mean, like I say, I've got ideas coming out of my head, but I think probably our next focuses about piloting an idea I've had within the community. And that's kind of thinking prevention again around some antenatal education for parents who have had adverse childhood experiences, and about supporting them in pregnancy to have a think about how things could be different for their baby kind of coming up. Because I think something that we don't do is we're quite intentional about, you know, talking about the practical preparation, but we're not very intentional about talking about the emotional preparation of becoming a parent. And I think if we can give people the time and space to actually think about that, physically think about it before the baby comes, it just helps with some of that preparation. I mean, it can be simple things, you know, like we've got a PDF around like who's your support network, you know, literally, are we actually supporting parents with this before babies are born? We might be doing that with people who are identified as at risk, but how many parents do we know who are at risk that we don't know about? And so for me, it's something around kind of that intentional antenatal education and looking at where we have these kind of generational repetitions. It comes a lot within adverse childhood experiences. So if we can do something specific about that, which I now know like midwives and health visitors specifically ask about adverse childhood experiences in pregnancy, I think that would be amazing. But as to whether we get funding for that, that's another thing. And basically, I've got so many ideas of things I want to do, but funding is a big thing. But we do what we can on a shoestring. So we're still here 4 years later with not loads of funding. So yeah, just passionate and really open to new ideas and ways of working as well. But I think probably realistically collaboration's got to come into it more for me, because there's only so much that we can do without having the support from the wider sector, from other VCSE partners, and like I said, like corporates too.
That's interesting, Beth, that you just used the word collaboration, because that would be kind of my main word is how we are at Hullabaloo trying to move forward. So we do a lot of work with various researchers. Obviously, we've done this project with Bronia. We work with other research trying to make sure that we're not just supporting the children that are coming into the world, that are already here, that are going through struggles, or maybe actually don't fit any of those boxes that get them the help that they need, but actually still need support. So we are working on a number of projects around supporting those families, things like play on prescription. So trying to support families with a space to come and learn how to interact with their child, and to help with some issues that can come up in motherhood. It might be that there is some neurodiverse needs, some anxiety needs, and trying to kind of create that suite of interventions designed to creatively support that transition with parenthood. Bronia briefly mentioned the play boxes that we have at the Hullabaloo. That's an intervention that we have used, and we are talking to NHS commissioners and policymakers to hopefully make it the kind of thing that parents can access. I know, Beth, you have kind of a package that you give to some families as well. So yeah, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. There's also the beauty of budget and getting funding for things. The Hullabaloo is a charity also. But yeah, there's a lot of hope, but one of the main things is to collaborate, and it seems that there's all these wonderful projects like Beth's Close Knit Families, and I'm kind of taking notes of different ones that people are mentioning as we're talking. But we all are working on our own, and having things like these huddles helps to bring us together, and hopefully is actually how we start to move forward, with the hope that when we're talking to parents, they don't come to one of our sessions or one of our training programs and then it ends. It's actually, have you heard of Thrive at 5? Have you heard of Close Knit Families? Have you heard of Sensory Beginnings? With the hope that these families will end up with such a bank of information that they can dip in and out to all of these elements, share with friends, share with families, share in communities, and we can all together start to make those differences for those families. I think that is at the heart of what all of us want to achieve. And for us to hear those baby voices, it starts with people like us. It's getting 50 people on a call together to talk about what we want to see happen, and sharing information and sharing that and helping to get those babies heard.
Thank you both very much for that. I know we've had a question from Alison Mason about the Daisy infographic, and Bronia, you very kindly sent the link, but I wondered if you could say any more about it. This is particularly from the viewpoint of allied health professionals working particularly in the community. And so the point there is they're very keen to promote physiotherapy voice role, and I wondered whether you could say anything more about that.
Yes, that saves me typing it out because I was just typing another reply. We did the work to develop the graphic with commissioners, people who could sort of commission parent-infant relationship services. But I think there's a lot of work to be done with various professionals and practitioners, and I'd be really, excited to work with sort of allied health professionals and physiotherapists and other sort of practitioners to, really sort of what could we do, to make things better across the system, because we've identified that this is an issue, but what can we do about it? How can we upskill people and make it part of their sort of skill set, and really sort of use the strengths that they've got, use the opportunities that they have of interacting with babies and with families, and really sort of build upon that. But it would be about sort of identifying what skills did they need to address that. Sorry, Beth, did you want to come in?
I just wanted to ask Bronia, because I don't know the answer to this question. Have you got like a tool like this, a recommended toolkit? You might have already kind of answered this, but I've not picked up on your answer around the infant voice.
No, we don't. That would be the next step of this work, to try and sort of develop it. Yeah.
And
sorry.
Oh
no, I was just going to say that we think there's sort of some key things. People need to have the right mindsets. They need to understand that babies can communicate from birth, and there are various sort of and that they have rights and things like that. And then they need the right skill sets to sort of understand and incorporate in views. And then we think there's something around a toolkit which might be around sort of creative play. So that kind of toolkit that could help professionals to sort of interact with babies through the medium of play, to sort of really understand their voices. So we think there are sort of those three elements, but no, we don't have them at the moment, unfortunately.
And I wonder, I mean, within those three elements, obviously it'd be great to have it all together as one thing, but is there even like, something that we can do just to address level one, which is the mindset, which would probably be where a lot of my kind of passion comes in, and then, level two and kind of through that way. But like everything, it all needs funding. And Bronia, if you come across anything in your academic world, please let us know.
I will definitely let you know. But I do think that the mindsets are probably the key thing. I think we can't get people to develop the skill sets unless they're in that mindset of understanding that babies can communicate, that they do have rights and they should be given the opportunity to have their views and to have their views given due weight. So I think, and I know, Beth, you use the term think baby, and I think that is the starting point. And then it's like, also don't just think about the baby, but listen to the baby. And then it's like the next steps of, okay, once we've sort of listened to the baby, then what can we do with their views? So I think it is, as you say, those sort of levels that we need to work through. And obviously it always depends on funding.
Thank you. There's lots of messages in the chat about how these videos could be used within the neonatal unit. So I suspect that will be a connection made after. And Helen Stringer's made some interesting points about speech and language therapists having a vested interest in parents talking to their babies. And it's good to see this being reinforced through all of this work, particularly in neonatal units and cross-culturally and cross-linguistically. So lots of interest there. We've got a couple more questions. Sorry, I'm just going to see who was first. I think we have Catherine first, Catherine Forster.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest the FINE training, the Family and Infant Neurodevelopmental Education package. Level 1's a really good entry level for everybody in terms of reading baby cues from an autonomic system, from a motor system, and from a state system. I think that's a really important training package. And I know somebody's written in the chat box about the NBO. There's a lot of these assessments that are being mentioned that you do have to have specialist training for. And I think a lot of them are to be delivered by AHPs. So an OT is, and I will advocate for an OT being one, but an OT is a great person to link up with on the units within the community and in hospitals, as well as physio for an overall holistic approach to meeting these babies and infant needs.
Thank you very much, Catherine. And we'll go to Eleanor.
Sorry. It was just on the conversation that was just happening regarding mindset. I just wanted to offer sort of a little bit of hope and a little bit of encouragement on that. So we've been doing our work on children's voices and incorporating children's voices for 13 years now. And what I will say is the mindset, it's a little bit of a chicken and egg thing, because often if we can get people to do the practice of listening to the child, they then see the results. For us, for example, if we work directly with other NGOs, they realise that their services become more efficient, more effective, they use less resources, and then they want to do it. If you work directly with parents, they realise that life gets easier, you have less battles with your children. So there's a bit of a chicken and egg of, can we teach the mindset unless they've got the evidence, by maybe giving them something really practical to go off and do first? They do that, life gets easier, and that slowly starts to change that mindset and they start to kind of come around to it. Yeah, so it's a little bit of hope there that I think it's very possible, and I think it's like any of us, right? We don't know what we don't know until someone tells us it. So it's all about, and everyone can be taught everything if we do it in the most appropriate, we communicate with them in the appropriate way.
Thanks, Eleanor. That's really interesting. And, you know, we did sort of talk about it as levels, but I think obviously it's probably more of a cycle and probably a bit of a squiggle, actually. You know, that you can sort of develop a bit of a mindset or a bit of a skill set and then go back, and, you know, that sort of feeds into the other thing. And I do think it's, as you say, sort of linking it to what's important for them. You know, for parents, it's about making their life easier. If you listen to your baby, it will be easier. And if you're talking about sort of, you know, directors of services, you know, oh, well, you'll save money and, you know, the things that are important to them. And I think it's just about sort of pitching it in the right way, because, yeah, you've got to go with sort of what interests them.
Okay, we've got Caroline next for a question.
Oh, great, thank you very much. I'm sorry I joined in late for the session this morning. I was out on a home visit. I've just come in from the cold. I was realising on the camera I've still got my scarf on because I'm just still warming up. So I'm going to catch up with the start of the presentation and just getting to speed. So I'm a speech and language therapist. I work in our neonatal unit in James Cook Hospital, and I'm also the lead speech and language therapist for our neonatal network. So I chair and have lots of links with our AHP colleagues across the network, and I just managed to catch in with just that first video being shown, and I know that our AHPs would absolutely love the video, so I'm really hoping at the end of the session to kind of reach out to some of the speakers and make some of those links, because I think our AHPs would be really interested. I know there's been a bit of a mention of AHP presence in our unit. We have a slowly gradual increasing AHP presence in our unit. We do have some lovely OTs across the region who are really keen to get working on kind of parent and baby voice and bond really early on. We're nowhere near meeting our staffing requirements, and lots of our neonatal units and parents probably, unfortunately, would still not meet an AHP, an OT physio or a speech and language therapist during their time in the neonatal units, but we're working what we can. And just to go back as well, yes, I mentioned the MBO. that really is. So the MBO is a newborn behavioural observation. I've just got it here. It's a really lovely tool for assessing and looking at baby voice. You don't have to be an AHP to do it. There are some online courses which aren't too expensive to attend, but that is a really useful tool for professionals to use. But thank you so much for the session this morning. I'm glad I managed to get in for this second half, and I'm hoping it will make some good links going forward.
Thank you very much, Catherine. So I think we're going to start to draw this to a close a bit, but I just would like to end with one question to each of the speakers. So if you had a magic wand and you could enable one thing to happen that would support the promotion of the infant voice, what would that be?
Do you want to go first, Beth?
Okay. Yeah, I'll go first. I'm going to say two things. Sorry. But yeah, it's going to be about that education and awareness raising, you know, across, you know, if we had like a cultural understanding of why it's so important for babies, those positive relationships, those supportive experiences, that if everyone had that understanding, I would love that, and I just think it would change so much. But also I do feel like you know, we really need to be supporting parents a lot more than we are, and a lot of other countries have a lot more in place where the mothers are supported. In particular, you know, say like Holland, they have like someone who comes and like looks after the mum and supports her with the baby relationship in the first 10 days, I think, comes and lives in the house. Because if we can actually take some of those loads off parents so they have the time and the capacity to actually be able to attune to their baby, then we're going to be able to help them to build that relationship. But I think the issue at the minute is some people don't understand about it, and for those who do understand about it, especially for some parents who have got additional challenges, their loads are too heavy to be able to tune into their baby. And what can we do to lighten that load? So sorry that I've made the answer a lot bigger, but I couldn't reduce it.
No, that's great. Thanks, Beth. And maybe Laura, do you want to come in on any ideas?
Yeah, I think with a magic wand, I think kind of touching on what Beth said, it's reaching the parents would be my kind of big thing. So if there was a way that every parent had access to some sort of, whether it was something like the baby play packs we produce, the resource packs that Beth produces, a mixture of all the kind of things, if they were given an initial support system, some tools right from the start. So almost kind of when they're given their baby, they're given some sort of helpful support that is accessible for everyone. So it's in the language that they already speak. It's you know, it's a video if that's the way that they can understand best. It's a book if that's how they prefer. It's a pack that allows them to just feel like that starting point is there, it's somewhere, and then they would be able to start on that positive step. Would probably be my initial magic wand.
Wonderful, thank you. And Bronia?
I think if I had a magic wand, I would make sort of babies just generally more sort of valued in society. And I think that would, you know, ensure that a lot of things sort of fell into place. But I do think because I don't have a magic wand, that I would just say if we could start by trying to always say babies, children, and young people, or, you know, babies and children, families and things like that, then that at least sort of includes them in the conversation. It's a step towards a sort of societal change.
Excellent. Thank you all very much. And unfortunately, I don't have a magic wand either, but you know, you got the essence of the question. I don't think I've got any more questions. I'm just looking for any final comments from anyone. Okay, well, I think all that's left for me to say is to thank again our speakers for such wonderful presentations and for contributing to the questions and comments, and thank you all for attending this morning and also for your engagement with the questions. I'd also like to thank in the background to these huddles, there's a huge amount of work done by the team. So really keen to just sort of thank the team who are working busy in the background to make sure this all goes well. And also just to mention that if you're not already a member of the network, then please can I encourage you to join, and we can obviously get any final details to you about how you go about joining it. We will be circulating the slides plus some of the other information that was captured in the chat. So we will include a link to the network and how you join it when we do that. But thank you all very much. And I'll pan back over to Amelia now.
Hi, yes, thank you very much, Judith. We really appreciate your chairing and support with our huddles, and thank you to all our speakers. It's been so interesting. And I've just popped the link to join the network in the chat. So if anyone's not a member, please do join. I'm just going to share a couple of slides just about other work that's happening in the network, so what's on in the future. So my name's Amelia Soulsby. I'm a network development manager, and so we've mentioned a little bit about the Healthier Together app and website. I think there is some work underway in developing some kind of resource or page for parents, but it's a massive piece of work, and there's a lot of sort of conversations going on in the background, so that'd be really interesting to see how that develops. That's quite exciting. But please, if you haven't had a look, have a look at the website, download the app, share it, and it's really sort of taking off. And I use it with my friends. If someone's like, oh, so-and-so's got chicken pox, what do I do? Aha, yeah, off you go. Have a look at this page. There's loads of really useful information in there. And I can see Sarah's popped in the chat that she's been sharing. It's been brilliant. Thank you very much. Next slide, please. Thank you, Carol. So here's the QR code, and this is how you can download it. So you can get it on Google Play and also in the App Store. And Laura's email's just at the bottom there. So please do get in touch with Laura if you want to chat further about it and support the work happening there. Next slide. Thank you. So in communicating and engaging, so we've got our weekly Child Health Tuesday. So when you click on that link, you put your information in and you'll receive Child Health Tuesday, which is a bulletin. And it says almost 2,000 network members. We're over that. We're over 2,000 now. So that's a huge reach across the region. So if there's any events, any opportunities that you would like to share, please do share it with our main inbox. And that will then appear in the next Child Health Tuesday. So if you can get it in by the Tuesday morning, that'd be fantastic. So we share newsletters. We are on Twitter, but a lot of people have moved away from Twitter. So we're looking at other opportunities around that. We have our systems engagement group. So if this is a topic that needs further conversation, which I think it does, please do try to get involved with our system engagement group, which meets bi-monthly to support reach across the system. We have our Huddle program, and I'm just thinking, what's next? Because we've talked about the voice of dads, we've talked about the voice of babies, we've done the brilliant Huddle around the maternal link workers and the social prescribing. What's next? So please send us your suggestions, and there'll be a feedback form that you can put that on, or just get in touch with us via the main inbox, and we will happily talk about our next Huddle and what should be in it. We've got a range of different reports, and then again, Healthier Together information. So can we have the next slide, please? It's just a table. So in the slide deck, it's just easy. You'll be able to just click on the links, and they're just the ones that I've mentioned. Oh, I haven't mentioned about our network of networks. So we've got two different. So we've got our main network membership, which is over 2,000 people, but then we also have a youth voice engagement network, and that is a list of organisations that directly work with children and young people. And I guess I'm just thinking back now to Bronia's ask around including babies. So do we need to put babies on there? And I'm very much open to that conversation on how we do that and how we can expand on that. So how can we make that better? How can we improve it? We've also got a professional network of networks. So if you've involved with any networks of professionals, you can register on there, and then it's just a way of cascading information from across the system. And there's 2 different short forms, and they're very, very short just to register on those. So if I could have the next slide, please. As I said, stay in touch. We're here. We've got our main email address at the bottom, so please do get in touch with us. We've got the QR code, so you can just scan it with your phone and join the network. And yes, please do get in touch. And the feedback form, please do fill that in as well. Thank you. Next slide, Carol. I think that's it. So thank you everyone for your time. We've got 10 minutes, so you've got time to digest all the amazing information and to get a cuppa as well before the next load of meetings. So thank you very much. And if the speakers want to hang on for a second, that'd be brilliant. So bye all. Thank you.